wanted to get my focus bulungi. Good morning. Good morning, our dear participants. Can you all hear me? So good morning once again. I'd like to invite you to our virtual education export awareness workshop. This morning, our dear participants, we shall have about 4 panelists who will be taking us through. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you so much for sparing time of your business hours to attend this virtual workshop. Uganda Export Promotion Board is interested in learning from you and training and hearing from you, especially to do with your successes, your challenges, areas of improvement. As you know, education is one of our very new areas where we, as Export Promotion Board, are interested in ensuring that we do better. So I'll take you through our program. I'll be your moderator today. My name is Brenda Katarikawe Opus, and I handle export marketing in products and services. Our program today will run for about 4 hours, and we hope if all goes well, by 1 p.m. we shall be done. We will start our program with introductions, and then we will have opening remarks from our executive director. Then we shall have our panelists who will speak to us about key topics that I'll introduce as we go forward. Then we'll get into questions and discussions. And we would like to encourage all of you to post your questions in the Q&A section so that we may quickly pick the questions. In case of any other chats about your business, introducing yourself, if you come in late, please put them in the chat space. As Export Promotion Board, we have had a number of these trainings, and we shall continue to have these trainings because this is now the way we have to go. It's unfortunate the physical presence is a bit limited because of what we all know, but we hope that interactions like this will continue to enable us to reach you and you to reach us. Our panelists today will include the National Council of Higher Education, where we have Dr. Pius Achenga, the Director of Quality Assurance and Accreditation. Our mother ministry, Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, will be represented by Daniel Sekamwa, who is the Senior Commercial Officer. And Uganda Export Promotion Board will have a presentation by Stella Aikuru Masiga, who is our Export Marketing Executive, and she specifically handles services. So with that brief, I will also just brief you about the programs. Dr. Pius Achenga will speak about the roles of National Council for Higher Education in enhancing education exports. We will have Stella Aikuru speak to us about the mode of exporting education, cross-border and consumption abroad. Then we shall have Daniel Sekamwa speak to us about commercial presence and movement of natural persons. So ladies and gentlemen, that's the brief about our program today. I'd like to ask you to all be attentive, be active, raise questions, and let's work together to strengthen our exports in services. So the way we shall do our introductions this morning, I will unmute one by one, and then you can tell us about your organization, your names and your organization. So if that is okay with all of you, I would like to start with introductions as we wait for the ED to have the opening remarks. So ladies and gentlemen, allow me to ask our participants to introduce themselves. I will start with Annette Komunda. Please introduce yourself and tell us your institution that you're working with. Thank you. So Annette, I'm unmuting you. You can introduce yourself.
I'm Komunda Annette from NTC Kabale, a teacher training institution, and a caretaker deputy principal and head of science department. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Annette. You're very welcome. Next, I'll ask Apophia. Okay, Apophia is one of UEPB staff, so I'll skip her. Let me go to the next person. Asiku.
Good. If you like us, you don't like to be bothered on Telegram.
My name is Apophia.
If we can hear you, please unmute.
My name is Apophia Richetero. I work with UEPB.
Thank you, Apophia. Okay, the next person to introduce themselves is Issa Asiku. Steve, can you please unmute? Issa?
Yes, I've already unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes, Issa, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Issa Asiku from Arua. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you, Issa. Please go ahead.
Yes, morning, Brenda.
Good morning.
Yeah, as one side, I'm Issa from Arua, Nile Institute of Management Studies, ICT instructor. I got onto the platform through George. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Issa. Doreen Basemira, you can please introduce yourself. Steve, kindly unmute. Unmute Doreen Basemira.
I did so. Thank you. My name is Doreen Vasemera from Mountains of Damonio University, Fort Portal. I'm a faculty dean in the School of Arts and Social Sciences. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We can have Isaac Asimu now introduce himself. Steve, kindly unmute. Sorry about that. I didn't hear Isaac introduce himself. Kindly, Isaac, introduce yourself again. I keep getting interruptions in our internet. Yes, Isaac, please introduce yourself again.
My name is Isaac Asimwe Kazara. I work as Director Quality Assurance at Metropolitan International University. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Isaac.
So who invited me?
Can
So
have
happy.
experts
Doreen, you're online. I can
that-
see you.
Somebody said.
Eh,
Sorry about that interruption. Isaac, thank you very much. Now we can have ISPAT University introduce themselves. The person representing ISPAT University.
Hello there, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name
Yes,
is
I can.
Dr. Tom Suga, Head Research and Projects at ISPAT University.
Thank you very much, sir. You're very welcome. Now I'll allow Jacinta Laka to introduce herself. Steve, I'm unable to unmute Jacinta. Kindly unmute.
Yes, hello.
Yes,
Yes, my
Jacinta.
name is Jacinta Lake from University of the Sacred Heart, Gulu. Thank you.
You're welcome, Jacinta. Okay, we shall now go to Jessica Karunji.
Hello, good morning. My name is Jessica Karungi, librarian and midwifery, Uganda, and chairperson of Consortium of Uganda University Libraries.
Okay, thank you very much, Jacinta. Okay, next, John Tusime. Yes, go ahead, please. John. Steve, kindly unmute John Tusime. Steve, kindly unmute John. Okay, John, as we try to sort you out, we'll go next to Colin Nwagaba. Colin Nwagaba, please introduce yourself. Unmute Colin. kindly unmute Colleen. Okay. Unfortunately, there's a problem going on. I'm not able to unmute. I'm not able to unmute some of our participants, but so because of time, some of our panelists have some early meetings coming up. I'd like that we go into our program. So ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, I'd like to, first of all, appreciate Executive Director, Uganda Export Promotion Board, and also introduce him to do our opening remarks. Dr. Eli Twineyo Kamugisha, very welcome to do opening remarks.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. You are all welcome to our meeting and our educative meeting, a meeting on export of services. Education is important for this country, but it is also important for other countries. Education since 2013 has become one of our major exports. Right from around 2013, we began getting around 50 million US dollars from education. And the figure has gone up since, as I will be showing you in my presentation. What is important is that education has brought in people from different countries, but mainly the neighboring countries, but also as far as from Nigeria and Ghana, and as even from Zambia and Malawi. And we are looking at education at all levels. We have pupils in primary schools, we have pupils and students in secondary schools, and we have students in universities. We thank the universities that have been making it. We thank the universities that have been bringing in money, because you have been doing your own marketing, you have been doing your own promotions, you have been you have put in place programs and modules that are relevant to the international community, to others beyond Uganda, and this is important for you and for us as a country. As Uganda Export Promotion Board, whose role is to promote, to develop, promote, and even coordinate all export-related services in Uganda, we congratulate you and we thank you for supporting this country to bring in exports of services, education exports. And that's why we have organized this activity, so that we share, so that we learn more, and we know where opportunities lie, and we know and understand how to promote these exports, because we need to expand exports. In marketing, we can say we need to expand exports, we need to increase exports of services. And as you know, services are bringing in more money to other countries than merchandise exports. In other words, commodity exports. And one of those services, like we are looking at it today, is education services. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to waste our precious time. Let me hand over back to Brenda, but declare this meeting today, this event officially open. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edie, for those opening remarks. I will now request that you go straight into your presentation on Uganda's education export potential. You're welcome, Edie.
Brenda,
Yes,
you
please,
could be
Edie.
talking. You could be talking. I'm trying to share. You could be talking.
Okay,
Let me
Edie.
try to share.
All right, thank you. I will just ask the people who had failed to introduce themselves, just to introduce themselves as Edie shares his presentation. Now I'll ask John. John, are you able to unmute yourself and introduce yourself? Okay, let me ask Jerry. Jerry, Jerry? Jerry, are you able to unmute and introduce yourself? Steve, kindly unmute Jerry from your end. I'm not able to unmute him here. Jerry Bagia. Please unmute Jerry. Hello, Jerry, are you there? Okay. Don't seem to be getting Jerry either.
Hello, I'm there.
Okay, Jerry, please introduce yourself. I don't know what had happened to technology. Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Jerry Bagaya, the academic registrar at Gulu University.
You're very welcome, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. John Tusime. Steve, kindly unmute John Tusime. John, are you there? Hello, John. Okay, sorry, we can't get John on. Let's go to Joseph.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Revuze Joseph from Kumba University, e-learning stroke ICT unit. Happy to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Okay, we shall go to Magara Silva. Yes, Magara, please introduce yourself. Yes, Magara, I can see your hand is raised. Okay. You seem to be on two
Magara
spots.
Silva, you hear
Yes.
me?
Now we can hear you, yes.
Magara Silva, University of Mbarara.
You're very welcome, Silva. Your line is a little unclear. If you can make it better, maybe we shall hear from you. Okay, we shall have, okay. I think that ED is now able to share. ED, we can see your presentation.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Can
Yes,
you
we
see the presentation?
Yes, ED, we can. We can see your
Can
presentation.
you hear me? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
sir. Yes, ED, we can hear you.
Okay. So once again, morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm presenting on Uganda's education export potential. And basically, we are looking at services. We are looking at education being important. So I will show what we have done so far and what we can do. And especially now, given the challenges of COVID, which is not going to go away very fast. First and foremost, when we talk of a service, when we talk of education as a service, what is a service in international business? What is a service in marketing? Are services touchable? Are they tangible? Are they transferable? Are they storable? So in defining services, we normally refer to the fact that they are difficult to sell, they are difficult to market, and we normally talk about the fact that you can't touch them, you cannot feel them, and they are important. And education is that service. And as we shall see, the only way to give evidence that somebody enjoyed the service, that somebody learned, that somebody is educated, is to have certificates as evidence, transcripts, but also to record what was taught in class, and we look at it another time. The figures you are looking at on this slide, this is recent exports of education services, and we start all the way from around 2004, 2005, and we go all the way up to 2018. As you see, education exports have been increasing, but as you see around 2017, 18, around 2016, they became a bit, the graph became so straight and then rose later again. And we can look at statistics, and practitioners will tell us how far we have done because with the COVID, the whole of 2020 was a bad year. And even now, we are still reading and suffering from those effects. But those graphs show you that exports of services have increased. Student numbers have gone up to around 20,000, and they can be more because some of these statistics depend on what we get formally. Some people come with their relatives and enroll, and maybe we cannot capture them. What have been the sources of the key sources for our students? Mainly neighbors, Kenya, South Sudan, Rwanda, Somalia, Tanzania, Burundi. But I told you also, we have, I know, for example, we have people from DR Congo, we have students from Nigeria, we have students from Ghana, we have pupils and students from Malawi and Zambia, and also Tanzania, which I should have mentioned here. With regard to university education, we have more than, according to National Council of Higher Education, and they tell us the current figure. When I recently visited their website, there were more than 50 accredited universities, which are both public and private, and around 200 institutions which are authorized to offer postgraduate certificates, post-secondary certificates and diplomas. So yeah, we have institutions, and we can expand, and others are being enrolled. I am a board member of one of them. We are still seeking to finalize every process so that we become a university. Yeah, so we have these institutions. To mention here is that our neighbors are willing to come and study from Uganda, and we know why Uganda is important, because at one time when we had the only university, Makerere University, it was called the Harvard of Africa, and it was based on University College London. We have since had more universities, and all are good and offering good education. So what are the factors that have been behind this success, attracting these students coming to Uganda? One of them is language, English. Our accent is keenly related to the UK accent. And so we are able to teach. The language of instruction is mainly English, though I know that Some of our institutions and universities mainly are also teaching French. Some are also teaching some German. So language has been a very big factor. But the other factor, which we know very well now, is the courses. The courses that we offer in our universities are relevant to most of these students. We have modules in science, we have modules in business, we have modules even social sciences that are relevant to these students, because when these students finish, most of them go to their countries. And if these courses did not mean anything to them, then they wouldn't be taking them, because when they go to their countries, they get jobs, they employ themselves, they do other things. So the modules are relevant, and we thank universities for availing them. But the other important factor is the cost. Uganda, low tuition. We may look at our fees and we think it is a lot, but those who are going to Europe, who are going to UK, who are going to USA, Canada, and going to the Asian countries, will find that you get the same level of education, you get the same qualification from Uganda at the lower cost. Our tuition fees are modest, but also you have modest cost of living, because also you have to think about that. When our students go to other countries, not only are they thinking about tuition, they also have to meet the costs of living. And this has been attractive. Convenience or access. When I was discussing part of this paper with Stella Masiga of our office, she said, you have forgotten one factor, strategic location. And I told her that in marketing international business, we call it convenience or access. That we have a strategic location at the center of Africa that we attract people from different places, and we should take advantage of this. Peace and stability, peace and security is very important because as Honorable Matia Kasaija, the Minister of Finance and Planning and Economic Development of this country, has always emphasized, money hates noise. Money hates noise, and if you have a lot of political noise, sometimes this money cannot come. That's why, as a country, and all stakeholders must always work towards peace, because without peace and stability, you will not be getting students coming from different countries coming to this to study from our universities. They will fear because their life comes first, and they would rather choose to go where it is expensive. Peace and stability has been a factor since 1990s, and we seem to be doing well still, despite the light skirmishes of elections. Elections always come with lighter skirmishes, but that is a season, and that season ends, like summer, spring, and autumn. We look at the hospitality and tolerance of diversity. In some countries, you find discrimination. There is no doubt that I should state it lightly. In North America, we normally say attitude. We use the word attitude to avoid saying that you have been outrightly discriminated. We use the word attitude to mean you have been either racially discriminated or otherwise. So Ugandans are tolerant, and the reason is their history. Uganda has got more than 40 ethnic groups or so, and speaking more than 24 languages, if you may call languages or call them dialects. Such a country which is united in their diversity and belonging together can only do one thing, being tolerant, because they are already diverse. Uganda is also has the diversity of religion, and that's why we don't have a national religion like other countries, because that would be discriminative. So when students come, whether they come from a Catholic country, whether they come from a Muslim country, whether they come from a Baha'i country, whether they come from a Protestant country, doesn't matter. They all will find peace. They will not be discriminated in this country. And maybe the last but not the least is the issue of the history of providing education, but I already talked about it, that Uganda early enough started offering education based on the mode and models and of Britain, which was our colonizer, and we have continued since to teach in that way with improvements. But also I note that most of the Asian countries also, where some of the students go who appear to be our competitors, they also are teaching in English and British English, not US English. So this teaching in English mainly has brought students from different countries to learn in English. As you know, Uganda has had a history of training presidents. We have trained many presidents we are in different levels of education from primary up to the university. So we have been able to do a lot. And many other reasons, but let me go to the opportunities. Opportunities in export education. First of all, how do you get the opportunities? Because the current students who come from different places, I know some governors in Kenya and the other bigger people in other countries, and are referrals. In the marketing of services, we talk of referrals that if, and I will say it in Uganda and I just put it back in English. And in Uganda, we say, Jova toyonjo jotero kuda, that where you went and you were treated well, to summarize it, where you didn't enjoy quarrels with those people, that's why you tend to want to go back. So these people who have learned from here, and I tell you, we should tell everybody that let's keep treating well our former students, because those former students are very important for us, because those are the ones who will tell other students that Uganda offers good education and they will come. But they also, we look at the ESC and we are members of the ESC. We are having challenges, as you know, some of you with Kenya currently, with regard to many products, maize, poultry products, sugar, milk and others. We are sorting that, but we are members of the ESC. And the ESC is even expanding. The market is expanding. We are now admitting DR and soon Democratic Republic of Congo, Democratic Republic du Congo, and we are going to also be admitting Somalia. So we are expanding, and these are opportunities, and these are your catchment areas. But also Uganda's membership now to the African Continental Free Trade Area is important. I've already been talking with our ambassador representing us in West Africa, mainly in big countries of Nigeria and Ghana. We were talking during COVID. We are already planning on how we are going to be marketing education exactly in those countries, because they are interested. And if you ask KIU and maybe other universities, and IUIU, they will tell you they already have students coming from those countries. So these are some of the opportunities. And the COVID pandemic also, you guys might think that it has brought only challenges, but it has also brought opportunities, because then it has increased virtual education services. We just need to know how to train our teachers, how to design our classrooms, how to design virtual lecture rooms and theaters, and this will be okay. Anyway, if we do it well, we will reduce the cost of constructing buildings as lecture theaters and lecture rooms. And because also COVID has brought another advantage, because these countries like USA, UK, Canada, and other EU are restricting, even Asia, are restricting movement of persons. And therefore you find that again within the region, even physically, we will be having students coming, because then they find movement restricted to these other countries that are competitors. The other one is cost, which will become a key determinant in whatever we'll be doing. We need to continue minding our tuition, but also advising on the cost of living. So how do we position our education? Language of instruction, emphasize it as you market, that we speak good English and can lecture students with in that language of instruction. That courses that are available remain and continue to be relevant. That the cost, as I have said, that convenience, we use this as a marketing tool. We have a strategic location. We are near you, whichever country you come from. And with the, of course, getting back our Uganda Airlines now with 2 Airbuses, we can reach Amsterdam, we can reach London, we can reach China, Guangzhou, we can reach USA and other places and India soon. So we can bring you in. Peace and stability to continue and to be used as a positioning attribute. Our hospitality should continue, and that is important, but we use it to market. Our history of giving good education, we should continue. So look at these things and say, how do I position education services? I have also put that what does it mean to market a service? And some of these things I've already talked about them. So I'm just I have put this on your screen, where we look at the importance of people. Do you have good lecturers? When we last had some few meetings which were not virtual, which were physical, we had people like head professors of universities and vice chancellors, and I was telling them that in addition to teaching with our academic lecturers and professors, we need to include the issue of professors of practice. And I emphasize it because the other countries are doing it, that you have seminar series and sessions and also lectures whereby you bring people of practice, you bring people who have done it before. And that's the very reason why Makerere made the following people professors. The Governor Bank of Uganda, Emmanuel Mutebire, Dr. Magic Gozi, Chairman Wavamuno, the late Mzee Mrwana, and others. You bring them so that they come and tell you what has been happening, because it is under the importance of people. People as customers, treat them well, your students, clients, but also, do you have the right people to teach? Where do you teach from? The place. The issue of place now can be virtual, can be physical, but it should be, a school should not look like a hospital if it is not a teaching hospital. But also the issue of cost, the price, we have already talked about this. And the issue of product, are your courses relevant? And the issue of promotion, you have to go out and shout about what you are doing, about your goodness, about your brand. And I tell you, the universities that have a lot of foreign students have been marketing themselves. I know them and I congratulate them. How do you offer the services? And others and others. Ladies and gentlemen, I am about to finish. Some of those slides, how you can promote yourselves, I not talk about it, but I want to talk about new approaches of providing education services during and post-COVID pandemic. As part of, you must include it, you must see how you look at it as part of your design of courses, as part of your marketing, as part of calculating cost. Because now you might think of being online and virtual. Yesterday, I heard one of the radios, some universities are advertising courses and they're saying all courses will be virtual. The courses they were advertising. But that will help you to think of how maybe you need to reduce space. Maybe the space that has been available, you give it to the remaining students and they become accommodation and you charge them. But maybe you invest more in IT. You create virtual lecture rooms and lecture theaters. Some will have to physically come and be present, but you think about, rethink which courses will remain face-to-face. The issue of screencasts, the issue of online blackboards, the issue of Google Teams and the Zoom that I'm now using. during this pandemic, we are learning using screencasts and we are passing. So it is important that we think of, but how do you get teachers, lecturers and professors to use screencasts and deliver a good message, and then you become competitive. The format of notes to give out to students, which should be made a PPT, you have to rethink them. Do you have teachers, lecturers trained to teach virtually? It is not tech, it is to teach. Think of course, as always, like any business, and how is your brand? Uganda Export Promotion Board, and this is the last slide, we'll keep supporting you, and we think we'll be supporting you more during these 5 years of NDP, because NDP has given us more than 16 result areas, key actions and key outcomes, which is unprecedented. We were never given such a lot of assignment by the National Development Plan. And we think that will come with, as we say in Uganda, that accompaniments, that it will come with the budget. And some of you go and tell your members of parliament that marketing is important, and tell your MPs to support Uganda Export Promotion Board. We already have some few staff to only market services, promote services, but we are also undertaking export readiness activities, which will identify who is ready to export services or products, and we handhold you. And we will be organizing direct buyer seller. When we mean direct buyer seller in terms of services of education, is that we are going to undertake promotions where directly we invite, if we go to Nigeria or Ghana, we invite teachers and head teachers of secondary schools and their students, and they come and visit us in a promotion, and we convince them to come. Ladies and gentlemen, we are also closely working with associations to ensure that we promote you. We're also working with international organizations like International Trade Center to make sure we do a lot. But I tell you that during these 5 years, we will get support, because Uganda Export Promotion Board is also written very well in the 5-year NRM manifesto. And the NRM has just won 5 years. So we know that the coming government also has said that they should strengthen Uganda Export Promotion Board. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very, very much, Edie, for that very rich presentation. We fully appreciate. And I'm sure it has also responded to some questions that were already coming through. So for those who didn't pick everything, we shall share Edie's presentation later, so that you may be able to go ahead and appreciate it in more detail. Now, you'll allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce our next speaker, because he also has a meeting. The ED also may be leaving us soon, but the next speaker also has a meeting, so he has to rush through his presentation. Allow me to welcome Dr. Pius Achenga, the Director, Quality Assurance and Accreditation at the National Council of Higher Education. I would request kindly that you pull down your presentation to allow the next speaker to put up their presentation. Edie, kindly pull down your presentation. Okay. Dr. Pius Achenga, you're now welcome. You can go ahead.
The video is locked. It's not a problem.
Yes, Doctor, we can see your presentation. Kindly put it in full view.
Full view.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Is that any better?
Yes, that's better. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Yeah, thank you so much, Madam Moderator. The Executive Director who has just spoken, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for having taken this initiative to invite National Council for Higher Education to give a talk, to contribute to the discourse on what education, specifically higher, can do in providing value, making value addition to the entire value chain of the economy. So I think this is timely, personally, and although your invitation came rather late, but because of its importance, the ED insisted that I do represent her, and I'm here to represent her. And so in so doing, I will try to build on from where the ED ended, and then give some perspectives in contextualizing what NCHE does in regulating higher education institutions, and what could it do to spur educational activities, making it exportable, if I get you right in terms of your presentations. So by way of introduction, I am Pius Coxwell Achanga. My name is Achanga, and currently I act as the Director of Quality Assurance and Accreditation at NCHE. I am also privileged to be an adjunct professor at the Gandhi Institute of Technology and Management based in Bangalore campus, India. Right now, I am supervising 2 doctoral students, among other things. So you begin to test from me the discussion about the educational export in higher education, real time. The other thing I do, government appointed me chairperson, a transition task force to oversee the takeover of Mount Zulimundi University, becoming the 10th public university in this country. So I come from the 3 views: as a regulator, somebody who is in classroom, and also somebody who is overseeing a training institution. And so my presentation today will build on what the executive director stated. And one thing that caught me from Mr. ED, from your talk, is the discussion on when I hear you take me through the question, I'm asking myself that if I were a panel, if I were a delegate on this forum, what is it that I should know? Or if I am a university or college that trains, what is it that I should do? Apart from all these parameters you've given, conduciveness, high caliber, what is it that I should do to prepare me as a training institutions to be different, to benefit into getting more income, more exposure in the conduct of my activities? Now, to add that, I wanted to bring the background of National Council for Higher Education. Just to remind you, you may be aware why this institution was established, its mandate and functions. I will then move on to providing some categories of the higher education institutions. The ED gave a snapshot on statistics summaries, and I could see people popping up questions. I could see Gulu University asking, what is the source of your statistics? And I don't think he has a problem, and I'm not going to blame the ED. He said he visited the website, but I'll give more authority on that. But you didn't do bad. You didn't do badly in the context of giving out estimates on how many institutions we have. I should build onto the context of enrollment, because in all this talk, let's remind ourselves that universities, higher education institutions are set up to do something, and that something is to teach, is to train, is to award, is to prepare manpower, to give someone skills. So numbers matter. How many students we bring on board? Numbers matter. We will not be talking about anything if we don't have numbers to export. And then when we have the numbers, other things come on board. What do those numbers do in terms of building portfolio to do research? What would those numbers do in terms of moving around to kind of fill the gaps of skill shortages in other areas? So the issue of enrollment is what I'll talk about. The next thing I should talk about in my presentation is what you've invited me to do. And I'm not an expert in marketing, but by no means I will try to prepare perspectives of NCHE based on practice, what this regulatory agency could do to support higher education institutions, to support the export promotions agency and government, to make sure that the institutions in the country are relevant, to contribute to the education export activities, among other things. I should then be able to conclude. Moderator, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to remind you that we are here to talk about higher education, to talk about national councils, because there was an history. We will realize that in the 90s, there was a lot of talk about nations coming together, the internationalization of practices, nations becoming a village. And because of that, the facet of globalization brought about the demand for increased access for higher education at all levels. And this discussion, this discourse was powered by statistical assessment driven by UNESCO. When they they did a study, they guided that, of course, all things start with UNESCO. They say, if America catches a cold, if America coughs, everyone catches a cold. And you may accept what I'm trying to state based on statistics, that any nation that prepares itself to economically grow and contribute and transform will have some numbers in higher education. And that's what I'm trying to highlight in the statistics of 2000, Africa, Mauritius, and so on. And in 2000, we had one Makerere University, which was the only university in the country. That is the beginning, the genesis of education, of university education in this country. And there were about 5,000 students maximum total enrollment in higher education. At a population then, maybe less than 10 million Ugandans, you have less than 5,000 representation in higher education. These are thinkers. These are people who should contribute to making policy formulations. So there was a problem. Only 3.8%. At that time, you had 15% as a total of a population of near 1 billion in Africa have their manpower, have their youth, whatever you call them, contributing to this study. Mauritius at that time had already moved on with its gross enrollment ratio, which is a statistics on those who should be going to higher education of the school-going age. Although here in Uganda, we define that from the age of 18, and due to the context of lifelong learning, even somebody at 60 is still getting back to higher education. But that proportion of the population forms the basis of us defining what gross enrollment is to contribute to the transformation of the economy. And at that point, the discussion was that the developed world, the US, Canada, New Zealand, and so on, they already moved to beyond 40%. So it is evident that at that time you were struggling. I remember the president of this country, he gives these statistics that when he came to power in 1986, he was struggling to get people to work for Uganda Revenue Authority. The realization of the tax, the total tax collected for the country was hardly $4 million. If you turn the table around and begin to compare where we have moved in terms of liberalization of higher education and what does it contribute in producing manpower to contribute to these societal activities, you will agree with me that higher education does matter. You need to have more people there. So as a result, Madam Moderator, colleagues, it meant that business could not be done the normal way in this country. Makerere was going to still his premier because of its rich structure in terms of where it has come from, but it could not now solve the problem with this country. And consequently, I give my heart all to men and women who contributed so much in the framing of the Universities and Other Tertiary Institution Act in 2001 and subsequent amendments of 2, 3, and 6, which then provided a legal framework. And this framework, simply put, enabled both public government to continue providing, because that is the constitutional duty, but also that those who could do it in a private dispensation could open up space, and also they could bring their funding strategies to motivate how we could run higher education. This, by all means, tremendously changed the face, the perception, the running of higher education. So whereas these are motivational and progressive ideas in terms of how we've come from, also the liberalization brought in so many challenges. The notion of how are you going to control quality? You and I open up newspapers on a daily basis. The other day, 5 days ago, you hear that National Council has rejected to give alliances, court has directed give alliances. The duties of giving a license is not about courts. Courts of law should interpret laws. I'm not about to blame any judge, but what I'm saying is that what belongs to the court is what the court is capable of doing. If you want to award, grant a provisional license, that is the premise, what is the remit precisely of the regulator, based on the concept, on the principle of the peer-reviewed agreement, where peers make decisions to arrive at a solution. So the issue of quality without having a body became paramount. And so NCHE got brought on board to regulate the establishment and management of institutions of higher education in Uganda. And can I then put that regulating the quality of education, let it be basic, let it be higher education, is not something which is very easy. It's not something which is a silver bullet, you wake up and determine. It requires so much. And if you define quality on a consolidated concept, it is something very difficult, something that you might not see, something which is like a mirage. It mutates. But basically, to arrive at that, I think three things that must be addressed, whether you're a regulator, whether you're training higher education institution, to try to benefit from the presentation of the ED expert promotion. How do you define quality? How are you going to get that quality, student of quality? So three things will come to fore, is that the education you provide must meet that minimal demand, customers' minimal demand, and that you have to provide it in a cost-effective way. This goes back onto the ED's presentation when it talks about, we think it is expensive, but we charge low. And that is true. The notion of unit cost, what does it take for you to train? And so that's another discussion we must have holistically, regulator, people engaged in supporting this cause to ensure that universities, when they charge, they are able to attract and students can afford. So it's not about just charging. It's not about just making pronouncement, we'll charge this. If you charge, then how are you going to attract and how are you going to afford, among other things? So in a nutshell, there are a number of categories that National Council for Higher Education in its regulatory work regulate. There are universities, there are other degree awarding institutions. Universities, by their definitions, are big institutions which will teach programs from certificates to PhDs. Other degree awarding, and they can teach anything depending on the niche they've chosen. They could have agriculture, but peripherally, they teach other humanities, among other things. But other degree awarding institutions in the category of the lower should be universities that can teach anything up to a doctoral program, but should specify, should control their progression in terms of the sense of direction where they want to go. And over and above, other tertiary institutions are the type of vocational structured institutions which would give skills. And if you look at, if you wish to agree with me in the context of pyramid for manpower development, people in universities, people with degrees, because their managers should be fewer, and the categories of vocational players should be many more. Now, if I were to share more statistics, I know the ED already started. Currently, we have 9 public universities in Uganda. The 10th is yet to come, the one which I am overseeing. The transition cabinet has already made approvals. And we are at the final stages of this establishment of the statutory instrument, among other things. So by 1st July, you will have the 10th public university of Mountains of the Moon in Fort Portal. There are 11 private universities holding a charter. A charter is a categorization of a training institution which was provisionally licensed, but has moved on to begin to prove itself of doing anything over and above the provisional kind of structure. And we have one private university with a separate act of parliament. You did allude to that, Mr. Ed, Islamic University Uganda, private in this country, but also created by an act of parliament because of the support that we get from the Organization of Islamic Community. We have 30 universities holding provisional license, and because they're provisional, they have to begin to aspire to go charter if they want to attract students and let students believe that they're good enough. This is my aspiration. We have one public other degree awarding institution, which is UMI. The MUBS, Makerere University Business School, which is a spin of Makerere, ought to have been another degree awarding institution of a public sector for business. But I think it continues to mutate itself, wanting to become a university, and nothing wrong with that if it has the portfolio to do so. We have 9 private other degree awarding institutions trying to specialize in theology and other areas. We have 50 other tertiary institutions. We have 22 private other tertiary institutions with certificate of classification. These are vocational OTIs, training institutions which have proven themselves beyond being provisional. Provisional means it's temporary. You must demand, you must create your own space there afterwards. And then we have 92 tertiary institutions under provisional licenses. So in a nutshell, to report, we have 225 recognized higher education institutions providing services. Out of these 225, from the State of Higher Education of 2017-18, NCHE has a record of 259,000, call it 260,000 students in higher education doing rounds. In 2016, and the latest statistics NCHE did, that there was an increase of 0.8% in 2017-18, which is the latest, because every year NCHE does study on statistics on how many institutions we've improved, among other things. So what I want to do in the second bullet is give an account, because I said numbers matter, and without numbers, we cannot talk about education exports. In 2006, this is the beginning, the initial operation of NCHE. There were 12,390 students in our higher education space. In 2010, if I were to compare, they had moved on to 16,000. And when you look at these statistics, there was a massive 3,000 increase from 2006 to 2010. But between 2010 to 2014, 4 years later, there was a paltry 844 increase. So you want to ask me, this is general, general in terms of students enrollment increase. So in 2014, we experienced so many challenges, as I can recollect. There were some universities offering PhDs being questioned. You had some universities being closed by NCHE and so many other things. And this, in reality, dents the image of higher education in the region, because the next statistics I will give is the interest of foreign students wanting to come to this country. But if your house is not in order, as the ED rightly presented, then this is going to affect the intention to be students to be attracted to and considering your education. So that is a snapshot of that. Now, I know the next speaker will bring this to the context of the definition of the 4 pillars of how education is exported. But I wanted to quickly step on and then guide that in terms of cross-border higher education. I know your preamble talk about being virtual, but also can be physically. I know Kampala International University has a presence in Tanzania, so they've crossed the border and they're present there. I also know Kampala University as a campus in Kenya. Those are the only 2, unfortunately, institutions we know under NCHE have moved out to cross borders and start physically. But we also, when we talk about these, of course, with the COVID arriving, we now know a lot of learning activities taking place virtually. And there was a question someone asking, how do you develop, how do you support institutions to benefit from developing bespoke virtual platforms so that they remain relevant? I leave that to us to kind of explore. The next thing that you bring on in terms of commercial presence is the marketing. And I thought this is something important. I had never, before this discussion with yourself, starting this discourse, internalized that I could be a university, Gulu University based in northern part of Uganda, but start a very substantial commercial presence in Mombasa, wherever, based on the kind of programs I do. So as a regulator, I think we should be motivated in having a conversation with the institutions so that they start looking at that sense of direction. You talk about the consumption abroad, where foreign students come into Uganda. I have some statistics I will share. And this is, to me, the gist of the matter, where I should have interest that higher education institutions attract foreign students to bring the dollar into this country. And of course, the movement of natural persons, where you're sending a lecturer. What I can state on record is that Inter-University Council for East Africa has done some good work in enabling our institutions based on merit-based criteria, where you are organized to spend sometimes in a different institution within the region. But would it be a good idea that we look beyond East African region, Africa, and also move to other places in terms of exporting our workforce? As a result, therefore, Madam Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, how can NCHE therefore enhance educational promotion as a regulatory body? I want to support the ED in this presentation and strongly state that we have to motivate a quality output-based higher education space. This will therefore call for the assurance of the state-of-the-art training facilities. If you have a kind of laissez-faire, container-based classrooms, you tell me which students will come. I remember having had a conversation with Professor Kaserene, who is the current Vice Chancellor of Private University of Mountains of the Moon. In the first year that Mountains started a nursing program, they had 30 Nigerians roll and list for the program. They came to Fort Portal. But when they came in, they toured, they found they were struggling to get where they could live in terms of hostels. Someone has spent so much money flying all the way from Nigeria to here, that if I'm not comfortable as a parent to determine where they live, the students will go. The numbers have since dwindled. So the idea of the facilities that higher education providers must avail is going to determine whether we contribute, whether we benefit, and also engage in promoting education, whichever way you talk about it. I strongly believe there has to be the notion of the curriculum, the relevance. The president talks about it all the time. If you look at the National Development Plan 3, what they're asking in terms of what type of academic curriculum a training institution should provide, you refer to that ED as the product. This is substantial, because if you do statistics and every time you're writing that for every graduate that gets out, you cannot employ 14%. They don't have the competency, the skill, then there's a problem. But the curriculum also need not just be about training people. The curriculum should be well thought through. I give the example of the nursing program. How many nations in the world, in the Western world, require nurses to work in their hospitals because it's a demanding job, to look after the people, old age people, among other things. So if you prepare your curriculum right to international standards, have it certified, you will get students who will be graduates rather, who will be employed wherever they are. So this is where we should look at. NCHE as a regulatory agency should motivate this kind of thinking. We have to attract qualified and high caliber manpower. You made mention of this. This is going to bring another angle of dimension. When we make NCHE provides a quality assurance framework in terms of defining, it shouldn't be abused. If I am a lecturer at Makerere, I must be of equal merit as a lecturer in Fort Portal, Mountains of the Moon, as a lecturer in Buzima University. So it means the minimum qualification in terms of defining what a lecturer is did not necessarily be having spent so much time in a classroom. One university and the other must have a comparable nature. I want to bring this on board because if I'm a professor at Makerere University and I am only known at a specific college, then there's a problem. Right now, you go to Google Scholar and you see people have publications and you see how many citations one has. This should define your portfolio. It must interest someone wanting to work with you. So I think this is the conversation we must bring on board. It begin to define, how do you define a high caliber manpower? If I call you a professor, are you generally a professor in terms of the public opinion? Because work in academia, higher education is peer-based. Or I am a professor tied into a specific university. No publications, no citation, among other things, because citations mean you are engaging, you're contributing to a contribution of real life and international knowledge. We should really ensure that higher education institutions engage in real research projects, as you rightly stated. We should be able to operate in a fit for purpose, socio-economic, political, and judicious conditions. And I wanted to bring this is a difficult one, but I want to emulate, to tender this into the working of the NCHE. The space and the environment that the regulatory agency should be allowed to operate must meet those parameters. That NCHE should have the funding to do what it desires to do. Politically, powers that be should support it in terms of making decisions. The judicial system, like the courts of law, must not interfere to begin to grant a license, because the next one they're going to grant an award to a training institution. So much so that when you make a decision that you're regulating higher education institution is based on is merit-based, is based on the frameworks which you've designed, but not an outsider directing you to do that. It sends bad messages. People read the press, people read these messages. So that should come to fore. We then also need to promote constructive learning, conducive rather, learning environment. You will forgive me with that kind of error. Promoting conducive learning environments in terms of what I've been able to state. If I'm a training institution, must I be a one block? Must I be expansive, where students will feel the richness, the characteristics of being in a training environment, the holistic kind of mindset change. We therefore need to create awareness on the benefits of education exports. And I'd like to thank you, Education Export Promotion Board, for having started this conversation. I pray that institutions attending to this workshop begin to engage you further. You begin to open doors in providing options and also where they should seek for help. But by and large, we need to embrace partnerships and collaborations. I want to believe that after these conversations, after this workshop, the Export Promotions Board will come to discuss with NCHE how do we sign MOUs. I want us to go to National Planning Authority. How do we contribute with you both to determine how many manpower in terms of skills we need in this country? What does Uganda need in terms of dentists, and what could Uganda export? This is the work which we should collectively do. We should benchmark on successes of these kind of activities. If you travel to Finland, which I think is a leader in terms of research in doing this kind of work, that is substantial. We should control what we do in higher education so that results of teaching, learning, and so on is controlled, and then there are no problems in terms of non-compliance in what we do. As I come to conclusion, to conclude what I've been presenting, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to ask that what choice do we want to make as a regulatory agency, as institutional educational providers, as students, as people with interest wanting to promote the activities of engaging in education and also exporting it. I don't have an answer. I have been able to state what NCHE does, the desire NCHE has, the support NCHE requires, but a lot is entirely dependent on us, as training institutions, as practitioners, as government, where we want to take our nations. But we have to create our space by being exemplary. I flashed this to indicate that this was National Council for Higher Education in 2016, September. Now you can imagine, colleagues, you are coming to this blog to be regulated, to be given a license. What type of training institution are you going to license? I leave that answer to yourself. Fast Track Forward, quick thinkers, initiators at NCHE thought that you need to put a building like this. So this is where we occupy. It gives you that semblance, that presence, that you are actually in charge of higher education. But that's just the beginning, because you can see behind, we want to expand. And this must be emulated by every other higher education training institution if you want to create space. In 2019 rather, Mount Elizabeth University, you can see this was some of the structures as a training institution. And no wonder when the Nigerians came seeking to obtain opportunity to be trained as nurses, they thought maybe this is the place to be. Look at the massive infrastructure in terms of land and so on and so forth. But these were the semblance of what Mount has had. Currently, this is the work we have in progress. this is not even state of the art, but is the beginning of the change of direction of what a training institution should provide, in my opinion, minimally. But if I look at step backwards and compare where I am based, the Gandhi Institute of Technology and Management is a three-pronged campus. The one at Vishak is almost a campus itself, is almost a satellite city. This is the mother campus. If you look at the second one at Hyderabad, this is the university. And for me, this is the ideal training portfolios that institutions provide. I am resident at Bangalore campus. So if I look at the three, as somebody who is based at NCHE and working with Mountains of the University and Mountains of the Moon University and others, is it not the kind of education infrastructure that I think we should develop to attract people from other parts of the country? Of course, just a snapshot to showcase that this is how we do business if you're benefiting on the environments and cushion of others. But I think you have to also make your own. So I thank you so much, and hope that whatever conversation we've had now will translate itself into opening eyes and having meaningful engagement, so we can contribute in bringing the dollars and benefiting from this thought process. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pius. I think we had a very, very good insight about the National Council of Higher Education and what you do. But I think you've also thrown a lot of challenges in the air for the different institutions that are in the discussion today. So with that, I'd like to really appreciate your great presentation and request that you hang with us for a few minutes. We appreciate that you have a meeting coming in, and what we'd like to request is that you answer a few questions before you leave. So as you pull down your presentation, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to ask our executive director, who's also leaving shortly for a meeting, and Doctor to respond to a few questions that are already coming through in the chat before they go, so that we don't miss that opportunity. Dr. Pius, I hope that's okay with you.
Yeah, much obliged. So I will hang it a bit. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I will just look through the questions that we have in the Q&A, and I'll just read through them and ask either the ED or Doctor to respond to them. The first question is, what can universities do to market their programs outside Uganda? I think this has been spoken to in both presentations, but I'll ask the ED to further emphasize some of the points on this.
What do you want me to emphasize?
The question says, what can universities do to market their programs outside Uganda?
I'll just give some part of it, and National Council of Higher Education will look at it, but maybe, Brenda, you may need to organize again another virtual seminar, and we look at that specifically and do a lot of it, because basically we needed to look at how your presence, how you market, how you go use different spaces and you reach your potential clients, but also including even the issues of internet and website, but more than that, how again you design your virtual classrooms and lecture theaters. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edith. Dr. Pius, I don't know whether you have any additions to that, or we can go to the next question.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think what is critical is that this is a, how do I put it? This is the question raised is, what can universities do to market their products? I think it starts with the universities, it starts with ourselves. You have to get back to a drawing board rather, and revisit the conceptual framework. Why did we start this university? I think this is the genesis. If I were to give an example of where I'm based, Mountains of the Moon University in transition, the university was started as a community-based university to solve problems within the community. And the niche of the university is agriculture, environment, public health, and ecotourism based in Fort Portal. Now, if I have that, it means the environment itself now provides a number of comparative advantage in terms of the establishment of a number of hotels. So the packaging of what I want to do as a training institution to attract others out there is dependent upon what goes on the ground, the academic programs I'm running to support this kind of ventures. That is number one. But I must also put myself on the spotlight and prove that I have this comparative advantage naturally. But as a training institution, I have these resources, the manpower. The ED has just talked about the connectivity. If I get a student in terms of exchange as a test, and then the first night they're in, you have a blackout, there's no network. You've not made arrangement of having a standby generator. That's a problem. So I think let's get back to our conceptual frameworks. Let's begin to think through. And I wish the Export Promotion Board, you need to bring out these statistics. Where do we start from? Where do we begin to link? Where can we provide networks to our training institutions in terms of synergies? If I am good at agriculture, where are the areas I can explore? If I wanted to teach nursing, where would be the opportunities to promote? And if I want to train a nurse in Uganda, would that nurse be accepted in the United Arab Emirates? These are things we must discuss with Ministry of Health, among others, and kind of guide our institutions of reposition resources to provide. That's how I look at it.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I think Doctor has thrown a challenge back to us as Export Promotion Board to be able to guide in terms of the areas where the demand is, where does one start from? So that is something we've taken note of, and we will be able to get back to you. The second question was still from the question says, advise universities how they can set up virtual learning centers outside Uganda. I think this still speaks to question one, which in terms of marketing yourself and presence in the market out there. We will probably hear a little more in the next presentations for the ones that are coming through. So we'll hold that for now. The other question that could go to ED and Doctor is, one says, Ellie mentioned, that's the ED, mentioned that one of the attractions is moderate costs of education. It has been claimed that some of the foreign students, especially from neighborhood, prefer to exchange their dollars and pay in local currency, claiming they are being sponsored by Ugandans. What can universities do to stop this practice? Okay, I know this question was directed to our ED, but as practitioners, I think you're better placed to respond to this. And I'll ask Dr. Pius to take the first step, but I'm sure with the meetings coming forward, we should be able to see how to address this challenge together. So Doctor, you could probably respond to this.
Yeah, thank you very much. I hope I got the question right, stating that some foreign students from the neighboring countries come into Uganda and say they're being supported by people in the country, so they pay the same fees. Is that right?
Yes, they exchange their dollars to shillings and pay in the local currency.
Yeah, I think this is a question of practice.
Yeah.
This is a question of practice. Maybe I'm not the most placed. One thing that we must qualify is that higher education institutions, university, colleges, and so on have the autonomy and the academic freedom to make decisions based on their governing councils. If they made decisions that they would accept tuition fees in dollars, and I saw quite a number in town did that, but they also struggle to recruit local students. The other thing is Uganda is a country which is a member of a partner state of East African Community. It's a member state, one of the member, a member of the community. So we need to look at what those protocols state. Whether a student in Kenya, South Sudan will pay the same fees. I think these are bigger things. My problem would not be about a foreign student in Kenya paying less or paying in dollars. My take is, what is it that you should pay in terms of unit cost? And I will give you an example. In 2010, Professor Kasozi, then my ED, did a unit cost study that if you wanted to train a medical doctor in Uganda, you needed 12 million shillings paid by a student per year. No, it cost 12 million shillings 1 year to make a medical student spend a year, 12 months, 12 million. So at the end of the 5 years, you needed 60 million shillings to get out a medical doctor. That study was repeated by the accountant, by the Auditor General, and the preciseness was almost very close. The reason I'm trying to bring here is that if you go to Makerere now, what Makerere is charging the Ugandan student for doing medicine, if it is 4 million shillings per year, I would be doubtful. So it raises a lot of logistical questions, whether the professor is being paid well, whether the facilities are enough in terms of reagents, and so on and so forth, because this 12 million shillings should distribute itself for paying the professor, the support staff, the welfare, and other things. So we shouldn't be looking at the dollar is good, but I'm looking at what should be our funding strategy. If we have the right funding strategy that a student can afford to pay the 12 million that Makerere requires, or any medical school, to produce that ideal medical student, we then solve the problem. Of course, the numbers that will come in, whether they pay in dollars, will kind of build blocks and kind of optimize. That is my take.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I think those were the key questions that stood out for your sessions. Doctor, I think one thing that you also mentioned that Export Promotion Board is working on is the signing of the MOU with the National Council. We are working on that, and we will be approaching you going forward. I'd like to appreciate a lot of the information you have shared, and I think participants will agree with me that today's engagement has encouraged and has started a lot of discussion in terms of how we go forward with promoting our services and export services in education. So allow me to let our ED and Dr. Pius to leave at their own will. We shall now continue with our program. Looking at time, it's now 10:30. We should be in our next presentation. And the next presentation will be handled by Stella Ikoru from Uganda Export Promotion Board. And Stella will be taking us through the modes of exporting education, cross-border, and consumption abroad. And I think the two presentations that we have had before have mentioned these two areas. So Stella, I would like to invite you to go ahead with your presentation. Kindly put a full view on your presentation so that we get to see it properly. Okay, thank you. So you can proceed.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Brenda, can you hear me?
Yes, morning, Stella. We can hear you.
Hello.
Just a bit louder.
Oh, okay. All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Stella,
My name is Stella Ikoru.
Hello, Stella. Stella, I'd request
Yes,
that you
yes.
use your video briefly so that the participants are able to know who you are, since you are the main contact person on services exports in UAPB.
Okay, shortly. Okay, good morning once again. I'm very glad to be here. Thank you, Edie, and thank you, Dr. Pius. Quite an insightful presentation. So I'll be taking you through modes of delivery of education, and I hope it will be quite informative for all of us. I'll do the first two modes, and then my colleague will do the others. My structured presentation today will be looking at definition of services, general agreement on trade in services, national trade in services policy, that is by Ministry of Trade. Then I'll briefly look at the 4 modes of supply of services. Then personally, I'll focus on the first 2 modes, and then my colleague from Ministry of Trade will focus on the next 2. One of the biggest questions that many organizations have is what is trade in services? Clearly, like the ED put it forward, trade in services refers to the sale of an intangible product between a producer and a consumer. Like the ED had actually highlighted it, services has quite a number of characteristics that makes trade in services quite special compared to trade in products or trade in products. Let me put it that way. Services is quite intangible. You cannot touch the service. Case in point is when a lecturer is teaching, you cannot touch what you're actually doing. He or she is passing knowledge from the lecturer to the student. So that in itself is actually intangible. Services are inseparable. You cannot separate the knowledge that your teaching staff have with what they're giving students. So it is the knowledge that they have and they keep it, they have it, they only pass it on to the students. Services also vary. They vary from producer to producer. That is why we've been lucky as a country for people to say that our services or our education system is quite good. It's because we probably have marketable courses and programs. Services is also perishable. Good enough because of technology today, some of it can be stored either on CD or can be recorded. However, before, services was quite perishable. Even up to today, we cannot rule that out. Services is quite perishable. Once you miss something, you have missed. Case in point is when students miss a lecture, it's hard for you to come back and actually have it again because it has gone and it has passed with time. Services are also hard to standardize. There is a very high level of heterogeneity. It varies with the client. So clients always rate these services. Someone would say it's good, another would say it's not good. So it's sometimes hard to standardize. And then it's also hard to own the service. For instance, if I came to class, I studied, let me say medicine, I cannot own that course. The course still stays property of the university or property of the institution. Then what is a National Trade in Services Policy? This was a policy that was developed by Ministry of Trade because of the gaps that were sort of recognized and identified in the services sector. And these gaps were more in policy and regulatory frameworks that would govern services. And the existing subsectoral policies were a bit disjointed and principally would focus on sectoral development, but would not focus on the tradability of services. So Ministry of Trade developed a National Trade in Services Policy to answer these questions. And this would sort of help our Ugandan organizations that deal in services to trade favorably, both regionally and internationally. Then there is the General Agreement on Trade in Services. This was developed by World Trade Organization because earlier on, or GATS in its sense is a multilateral or legally enforceable agreement governing international trade in services. Before, there were agreements that were sort of governing only trade in products. However, because of the the complexity of services, WTO thought it wise to actually develop an agreement to govern the trade in services. And still, under this, a couple of services sectors were identified that were quite tradable, and education was one of them. There was ICT, there is construction, tourism, transport and logistics amongst a few, but in total there are about 12 sectors, of services that were recognized by General Agreement on Trade in Services. This agreement still also identified the 4 special modes or specific modes that you can trade your services or your education services in, and that is what I will be taking you through today. GATS, or General Agreement of Trade in Services, identifies 4 modes for you to trade your services. Mode 1 is cross-border supply. Here, services flow from one territory of one service provider into the territory of another. And this one entirely is done virtually or online. The service provider is in country A and the consumer is in country B. Case in point, okay, I'll go through that when I'm going through the detail of the presentation. Consumption abroad is when the service consumer moves to another territory to obtain a service. This is the typical example of how students come into the country. Foreign students come here and study into our universities. The first one is when you offer your service virtually. Then commercial presence is where you set up a subsidiary or a branch in a different country. And according to WTO, this is called offshoring, when you can set up your university in a different country. Then mode 4 is presence of natural persons. The service provider moves from here, or a lecturer moves from here to another country to provide the service. That is presence of natural persons. And in many cases, presence of natural person clearly indicates that the persons will not stay in this territory permanently. It's a temporary movement and they'll go back to country of source. So I'll go into the detail of the first 2 modes, like I said, and my colleague from Ministry of Trade will take on the last 2. Cross-border supply, like I had said, is movement of or supply of education services from country A to country B without movement of both persons. And clear example in this is virtual education and trainings. Given the COVID era and the movement or development of technology, virtual education has become the new normal, like the way they call it. And it's become one of the easiest things that many people have had to do. Though still some students prefer to come over and study here, but because of the COVID pandemic, the government has of course authorized the ODEL system through National Council for Higher Education for all institutions to actually go online to combat the impact of COVID-19. Another is distance education. We've seen where students study in country A, either they do it online, however, study materials are sent through courier, or your, what can I call it? Your award or your certificate is sent through courier to the country where you are at. Another example is franchise courses. Arrangement, it's an arrangement where a provider in country A authorizes a provider in country B to deliver a course that they have started. For example, if one of our universities starts a new course, I believe there are some that are doing it, starts a new course, it's owned by that university, and it is marketable in another country, they will authorize or they'll partner with a university in a different country to sort of offer that course. And normally what happens is they agree on the cost sharing or the profit sharing after a student has paid for this course or the program. Then there is twinning. Provider in country A collaborates with a provider in country B to develop an articulation system that allows students to take courses in country B, and this award is given by the original university. For example, if Mbarara University or Gulu University has given authorization for a particular country or a particular institution in Kenya to teach a subject, they will teach it. After teaching it, the only university that will award that certificate or the degree will be the Ugandan university that actually owns the course. I hope I'm quite clear here. Then there is double or joint degree, where it's an arrangement where providers in different countries collaborate to offer a program for which a student receives the qualification.
Ella.
Yes?
Sorry, Ella, just increase your volume. You're a bit low. We are getting some comments that your voice is a little low.
Okay. Is it better now? Hello?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay, sorry. Is it okay now, Brenda?
Yes, Stella. Yes, you could.
Okay, all right.
Please proceed.
Okay, I'd stopped on double or joint degree. It's an arrangement where providers, sorry. It's an arrangement where providers in different countries or different institutions collaborate to offer a program for which a student receives a qualification by each of the providers. For example, if a university or an agency or an institution in Uganda develops a degree, they partner with a different institution, say in Nairobi or in Zambia. After the student has actually completed the course, that university in country B that contracted to get the program from Uganda will be able to award the degree from there. Remember, we had said in twinning, it's only the country A that started the degree or started the program to be able to award after the student is done. But in joint or double degree, any of the universities that has been partnered with is able to actually provide a certificate or award because they already have systems, they already have sort of a standardization that country A has given authorization to country B to actually provide the service and also award the student after the end of the course. Final is validation. These are arrangements between providers in different countries which allows, okay, the arrangements between providers in different countries to allow country B in the receiving country to award qualification of provider A in source country. In this case, Ugandan entity will start a course, authorize another country to provide the course, and also gives them authorization to award all the students. It's more similar to joint or double degree. They are more or less the same, but you can agree on the standards that you can use to offer the service or offer your education. So one of the big questions is online becoming the future of education, given where we are today and given the mode that I'm talking about? Well, like I said, ever since the outbreak of COVID-19, e-learning has been the forefront to facilitate learning continuity of education, especially in Uganda. And according to World Bank, e-learning is a form of learning that uses electronic technologies to deliver and facilitate and enhance both formal and informal learning and knowledge sharing at any time and place. And when you're doing e-learning, we all aware that you cannot avoid the use of computers, you cannot avoid the use of internet and multimedia. Multimedia, I mean cables, satellites, transmissions, audios, videos, and any softwares or hardwares. It's inevitable to use them in your process of delivering the service. So, the University of Fordham in the US identified various types of online learning that our institutions can actually apply in their delivery of service online. And they identified one as computer managed learning, and in short, it's called CML. And in computer managed learning, computers are used to manage learning and assess learning processes, and it operates through information databases, which contain bits of information which the student has to learn with a number of ranking parameters. And in this type of online learning, the lecturer inputs into the system or into computers what they want students to learn and what is the threshold for them to perform. So this computer will pick what the student has learned at a particular time and how much have they learned, have they passed? And this computer will also do an assessment for you, for all the students. And this information can actually be used later on in future for reference purposes. However, this makes it very easy for an institution to sort of certify and sort of see how students have learned over time with the assessment and breakdown and disintegration by the computer. And this is entirely run or set up by the lecturers or system admins in different institutions. Another type of online learning is computer-assisted instructions. And this is using both the computer and the traditional learning methods. Case in point is now that we are on Zoom, you use both audio and then you also use the laptops or the computers that you have to actually have access to information material. The third is synchronous online learning. This enables students to participate in an e-learning activity together at the same time from any place in the world. And this entirely is called real-time. Through the various platforms or softwares that have been developed for learning, students are able to interface with the lecturers immediately. And this sort of brings a very good platform for students to actually network from different countries without necessarily meeting. The fourth and last is asynchronous online learning. Groups of students study independently at different times and different locations from each other without real-time communication taking place. And this is entirely called outbound, where a student will learn at their own time. Probably lecturers will record videos or send reading materials for students. They look through, they study on their own, and they will sit and do the exam later. But there is no real time, there is no interaction whatsoever, direct interaction between the lecturer and the student. So what are some of the modes of, what are some of the benefits of this mode of delivery? It eases or it makes it easy for students and lecturers to network from different countries. Students and lecturers are equally able to learn soft and technical skills, especially for those that are not quite technical or they're not quite tech savvy. It also enables cost cutting. There are no transport and accommodation costs for both students and lecturers. And then it's also flexible. It can be handled at different times. It's also easy to schedule some of these activities online. Mod 2, I'd said I would do mod 1, which is cross-border. Now mod 2 is consumption abroad, and this is the typical Ugandan setting that we have been having, where students fly into the country and come and study from here. And the major characteristics of this mode of education is there is a classroom facility, there are lecturers involved, and they directly interface with students. There's physical presence. Sometimes there's involvement of paperwork. And according to WTO, the largest component of international trade in education services is accounted for by students traveling abroad to study. And Uganda has had an edge over other regional countries because of the various demographics that our ED had mentioned. For instance, our education is quite affordable, even in the region, it's quite affordable compared to other countries. There is a lower cost of living into our country. And I believe Uganda also offers quite a number of international curriculums that some of the students can have access to here. And our mode of operation, or English, is quite favorable. And countries that are within the English-speaking language, or those that are not within the English-speaking language, will always prefer to study in a country so that they are able to learn English in its fullness. Like I'd said, this mode has flourished because of the previous factors I've mentioned, but not forgetting there's a ESC partnership, there's COMESA, the agreements that my colleague will talk about in his presentation, and then the African Continental Free Trade Area, which favors movement of people from one country to another. So that's what I had for today. Thank you. And in case of any questions, please do not hesitate to write it in the comment section or the Q&A. Thank you.
Thanks so much,
Over
Stella.
to you, Brenda.
Thank you very much, Stella. I fully appreciate it. Thank you for your presentation and for throwing some insight on the way we can export our services. Now, I would like to go straight to the next presentation so that we catch up well on our time, and that is by Daniel Bekamwa from Ministry of Trade and Industry. And he will be speaking to us about the modes of exporting education, commercial presence, and movement of natural persons. Daniel is the Senior Commercial Officer at Ministry of Trade. So Stella, I'd like to request that you pull down your presentation so that Daniel is able to have his presentation. So Daniel, are you with us?
Yep, good morning.
Good morning, okay. Stella will share her presentation and then you can put up your...
Actually, I'll be so brief because my presentation is quite similar to what my colleagues have presented. So right now, I'll just take you to what the ministry mandate is in terms of in the field of services. All I can give you the background is that services trade is considered as the new frontier for economic development for the country.
Sorry, Daniel, do you have
do
you have a presentation to share?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Now we can.
Yeah. But I will share it. I'll be brief. I'll say big presentation, but I'll break it down so that maybe I can share with other members to have more gist of it and dig deep into it. So as a ministry, you know that we are the policy makers in terms in the policy bit. We formulated the trade and services policy law, which came into force a few years back through the support of the Regional Integration Implementation Program supported by the European Union. So they supported us so big in terms of formulating that policy. So as Stella said, the policy is just all about guiding all private sector players who are in services trade on the way services trade is done and how it's regulated. Stella, you can scroll down. As you can see, I've highlighted down the support from the European Union and our project, the Regional Integration Implementation Program, which helped us draft that policy. That policy is there for everyone to have at hand. We have a few books at the ministry, which we can share a few booklets if they don't have them at UEPB for other people to come and pick them. It's a small handbook. Actually, it was well written, whereby it's user friendly. It's a few pages, whereby it's user friendly. So you can pick a few copies, which can guide you in the whole sector of trading services. So nothing I can add is, as a country, we are signatory to various multilateral agreements, like WTO, which we ratified on 1st Jan 1995. ESC, which we've been member, even before it collapsed and reignited fire. COMESA, we've been a member, and then SCFTA. But before SCFTA, we've been also negotiating what we call a tripartite. Tripartite brings together COMESA, SADC, that's South African Development Corporation, and ESC. So it was three regional economic blocks coming together under what we call a tripartite. Tripartite we've also negotiated it, and even trading services was among the sectors which we looked at. So through all these regional economic blocks, each country was supposed to schedule commitments or fields whereby its member partner states can come and trade freely without too much restrictions, or literally zero restrictions. So among the schedule of commitments we did under WTO were, as Stella, you can scroll, scroll down, scroll. Yes, they're here. Go up. Go up. Yes, among the schedule of commitments which we had with WTO were telecommunications, tourism and travel related services. Then the schedule of commitments which we had with the ESC were telecommunication, transportation, tourism and related services, some professional services like engineering, veterinary, financial services, education. So I won't go into other sectors. Basically, I'll focus on education. Then COMESA, it was communication and transport. It was communication and transport. Stella, for me to be more flexible, let me go down to my own document so that I can be so brief. My real document. Then you'll just share that document with other members for flexibility. So, like I said, also pursuant to Article 1(2) of the GATS, the modes of services supplied, as Stella's stated, were Mode 1 provides for cross-border supply of services. Mode 2 covers consumption abroad. Mode 3 deals with commercial presence. Mode 4 deals with natural persons. So my focus is, let me focus more on Mode 3 and Mode 4. I'll just give a small glimpse on Mode 1 and Mode 2 because Stella has already also highlighted on them. Mode 1, we already have, like Professor said, we already have universities here setting up presence in Kenya. We already have KIU also that has established a collaboration with the University of Rwanda, having joint curriculum activities, exchange of students, exchange of publications. Then Mode 4, we already have existence of Ugandan lecturers in various East African secondary and primary education sectors on short or long-term contracts who teach in either English, Yeah, actually, most of them teach English actually in Tanzania and run these schools. Then also under Mode 4, we also have existence of lecturers in various EAC countries who offer research, because you all know that Uganda, no one beats it in the region in terms of research, especially Makerere University. So we already have initiatives, especially now there was already there's a signed MOU between Makerere University and Mount Kenya University. And that MOU was signed in 2017 to have exchange programs through joint teaching and research. Then under Mode 4 still, we have the influx of Tanzanian teachers who are here to teach Swahili in many Ugandan schools. Actually, even I'm a product of St. Lawrence. We used to have them who used to teach us Swahili. So, but also under Mode 2, I can also emphasize, like even other presenters have emphasized, there's a lot of presence of Kenyan, Tanzanian, South Sudan, Burundian, Rwandese, and Ethiopian plus South Africans. But however, Mr. ED notified that they were already contacting Nigeria and all other countries to see how best they can trade in education services. However, I can notify him that being part of the ACFTA African Continental Free Trade Area, that area has already been opened up. So it's all about us now to play our game, or to see how fast we can be a benefit of the CFTA, because trading officially started on 1st Jan 2021. So the more, let's not look at only Nigeria, let's even explore other countries, even in the northern part of Africa, Egypt. You get it? Because even Egypt is one of the best countries also in terms of research, especially in healthcare services. So let's also exploit other areas, and then we exploit the whole CFTA agreement, which also Nigeria is party to, because they also ratified recently. Then also, how do we compare Uganda's education services sector in the region? In comparison of Uganda's education services with those of region partner states, parameters of comparison used include key quality indicators such as the continental and global ranking of national institutions. Actually, you all know that Makerere University has been ranking for the past good years in the region EAC. Uganda, Makerere University has ranked highly compared to Nairobi and a few at Dar es Salaam, other universities. So that gives us a comparative advantage. Then plus other benefits, which Mr. ED mentioned, which are also in my presentation, which Sarah will share as we move on. Now, my plea is challenges in the Ugandan education sector. We can never undermine the effect of COVID. So my plea is, I request Uganda Export Promotions Board to organize a forum like this to exploit the impact of COVID-19 to the education sector as a service. Because I don't think there's something, UEPP has organized such a thing. So if you can organize that, and then we see avenues of how education institutions can recover, because even the numbers you boost of students coming from abroad are no more because of the disruptions in the travels, or border travels and all restrictions for COVID. So we need to organize a forum like this, just basically for to analyze the impact of COVID-19. Like as a ministry, we've actually been organizing such stakeholder meetings just to identify impacts of COVID on various sectors. So education was new to us actually, but in terms of goods, cross-border trade, and all other things, we've been organizing such stakeholder initiatives, and we've been finding lasting solutions. For example, this isn't education-led, but for cross-border trade, when borders were closed, we told traders that since borders are closed, land borders are closed, consolidate cargo in one truck, then take it across other countries. Like they could consolidate cargo, put it in one truck, then drive it to Congo. Then a Congolese drives the truck back, drives it to Uganda. So had we not had such stakeholder engagements, then our traders would have been suffering, because most of these cross-border traders are women, they're vulnerable people, they're disadvantaged. So let's organize a stakeholder meeting like this workshop just to tackle COVID, how best education institutions can recover. Because there are so many education institutions that are going through distress, which took loans and all, and they can no longer recover. Banks are almost taking over their schools and everything. So students are all over how best they can utilize online initiatives and all those things. So my presentation, Stella, kindly share it because most of the things I would have shared have been shared by the first presenters. So share it so that people can have more insight of our part as a ministry. But I'm ready to answer anything, any query you want to know from the ministry. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Daniel, if it's okay with you, I'd like you to just unmute your video so that our participants know the person who has been sharing this rich presentation. And like Daniel has requested, we shall share his presentation with you so that you are able to get the full detail of what he was explaining to us. Daniel, 2 minutes and you just unmute your video if that's okay with you. Daniel, are you still with us? Okay, I don't seem
Hello,
to have.
I've unmuted.
Okay, let me see. Maybe it's on our end. Okay, for some reason I can't unmute you on this end. Steve, can you unmute Daniel for a minute?
Yes, I have.
It's okay, Daniel. We don't seem to be able to see you, but we really appreciate your input to this discussion. Now I'll go straight to the questions. We have a few more questions with us. Now I will read out the question and then identify who is able to answer them. So Stella and Daniel, the ED has left, so we'll see what to do with his questions. Okay. There's a question from Jerry. It says, is it possible for the process of equating academic documents to be online? Clients have always complained that it takes long to have the equating done. Dr. Pius, are you still with us?
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, George.
Yeah, this is George. Dr. Pius seemed to be in a meeting, but I think he could also come in. Equating of qualifications can be done online. On the National Council portal, there's a facility, there's a tool that can enable anyone submitting documents can submit online, and then we get it this end and advise accordingly after reviewing the documents. That is possible.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thank you very much,
It's possible
George.
to equate documents online. All foreign students who would wish to study in Uganda have got to submit all their documents to National Council. You submit copies of your academic transcript and the certificate and the entry requirement for that program. So that we can equate it to, because we have to verify with the institution as well to see that actually you're coming from Nigeria, but you are actually the same person who studied in that institution. This process takes about 2 weeks maximum. There's a whole department that does that under quality assurance.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, George. George is a senior higher education officer with the National Council of Higher Education, so he can always step in to respond to those questions. Thank you, George. Our next question is for UEPB, branches in foreign countries. Now, this question, I'll just give a response to it, depending on what the university would like. Of course, we can't be able to, in terms of the detail of set up costs and so on, that we may not be able to help. But depending on what the requirement is, we can give some support, especially if it's to do with introducing you to the different, regulators in that country, or you need help from our Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Those are some of the things that we can do. So you could raise the issue with us and we see how we can be of support to you. Okay. Our other question is on mounting credible and reliable virtual classrooms, especially in private HEI is costly. Higher education institution, sorry. Private higher education institution is costly. Is it possible for government to come in and lend a hand in this very important innovation? We have Daniel here from Ministry of Trade. Daniel, can you chip in and respond to that? Daniel, are you with us?
Hello.
Yes, Daniel.
I'm just back on because my internet issues on the laptop, so I'm on my phone.
Oh, okay. The question was mounting credible and reliable virtual classrooms, especially in private higher institution, is costly. Is it possible for government to come in and lend a hand in this very important innovation? Daniel, are you with us?
Which innovation?
It says, I can read the question again. Hello, Daniel.
Yes.
I can read.
Yes, I'm hearing.
Silva Magara.
Yes, read it.
Mounting credible and reliable virtual classrooms, especially in private higher education institutions, is costly. Is it possible for government to come in and lend a hand in this very important innovation?
Yes. Now, for the issue of virtual education, we need to organize a meeting. I can put you in touch with the PAs of education, Kakoza. I have his contacts and all. Then we organize a meeting with the Ministry of Education. They can advise better on that, because in terms of funding pool, it comes from their budget. You get it, to facilitate that arrangement. So if anyone from this forum wants maybe a meeting with officials from education, we can organize a meeting to their PS, Mr. Kakoza. Because in the end, funding as trade, we shall be lying to you that funding can come from trade to fund this innovation, but still it has to come from the line ministry, that's from the Ministry of Education. Yes.
Hello.
Actually, I can also share maybe the number through the chats. Anyone who would love to contact him can contact him and maybe inquire. But still, also my advice also is for UEPB, for any stakeholder engagements also on education, besides the National Council for Higher Education, we should also invite the line ministry. That's the Ministry of Education. So next time, we should also include the Ministry of Education officials in this engagement. That's my advice.
Thank you very much, Daniel.
Hello, can I add on something there?
Yes, George. Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, for the private institutions, we recognize that they have been struggling with setting up the Odell systems in the institutions. But where government has come in, I know that NITA-U has given preferential rates for the Zoom subscription. I encourage people to explore that. And then Renew Uganda, hosted in Makerere University, has also come up with 0 rating for all the learning management systems hosted on their servers. So if higher education institutions could reach, and that registration is still free. And I think after there was a letter which was shared by Renew to higher education institution, and we've also sent them again to higher education institutions. if you could register now with Renew, you would get a free registration to get onto their servers, and then your learning materials will be shared at 0 rating via MTN. You don't need data for your students and lecturers to access materials, learning materials from the Renew servers hosted on your websites. So I would encourage others who have not yet registered to please do go and register and go to Renew and explore some of the options. You may find that you may also get free bandwidth for certain number of students. Thank you.
Great. George, thank you so much for that input. Thank you, Daniel, as well. George, I think this last question also goes to you. The question reads, I request for more clarification on what an institution needs to have in place before the admission of foreign students. So Annette is asking more clarification on what an institution needs to have in place before the admission of foreign students. George, I think this is for you as the regulator.
Yes, you know, National Council published the entry requirements at all levels, from diploma to masters to bachelors at different levels. So we need to understand if somebody comes with a certificate from another institute outside Uganda, we need to understand what level it is. And usually those certificates are all submitted to National Council. I must emphasize that you should submit both the certificate and the transcript, photocopies of those, and any other supporting documents that the candidates may hold. And once you get that, we shall equate the certificate to the Ugandan standard. Then we advise the level at which this institution is. And then that's when the foreign students can only be admitted to higher education institutions in Uganda. We don't want to admit somebody who has finished O-level to a university. So, and we have also put in place bridging, what I call bridging courses, what a student can go through if they have not met the minimum requirement to join a degree program in Uganda. There is what the 1-year program they enroll in for them to, before they enroll to the bachelor's or the master's program they would want to take in Uganda. That's what we put in place, yes.
Yes, George, I think that is very, very important for our universities and tertiary institutions that are on the platform today. Do we have any other questions, or have we answered all that we had? Based on what is in the chat room, in the Q&A?
I think there is one there which is asking from Jerry Bagaya. Have we answered that?
Which one you can?
Okay, I think that's fine. That's just a comment.
It was just a comment. Okay. I see one from, let me see, Isaac. It says education institutions contribute a lot in regards to foreign exchange as a result of education imports in Uganda. Education institutes have been promoting these products without a hand in government. How can Uganda import, okay, maybe this is Export Promotion Board, come in to help education institutions in promoting these education imports, keeping in mind that it's costly to market in foreign countries. Okay, Isaac, I think what the ED mentioned in his presentation answers part of your question, but I'd like to emphasize also that it depends on what the requirement is in terms of the institution and what you would want to be supported on. So whereas as an institution, we are involved mainly on the marketing arm and trying to get your services in different markets, there are other requirements that you may have. So what this whole discussion is about is to encourage us to come together and be able to reach out so that we know and hear from you in terms of what you'd require us to do and how you'd like us to support you. I
Hello.
don't. Yes, please.
To add on that,
Yes.
a case study of mine, I studied at St. Lawrence, but in my class,
Sorry, Lawrence. Sorry, Daniel. We can't hear you now. Stephen,
Can
can
you
you
hear me?
try? Now we can hear you, yes. Please go ahead.
yes, we realized what the big man was doing. He had liaison offices in Nairobi. He had an office. Then he had an office in Dar es Salaam. That's why
Okay.
we used to say a whole influx of students from Kenya and Tanzania. So for me, my plea is all the institutions have capacity. You don't need a lot of space. Even if it's a shared space in Nairobi, have a shared space, have an office, a liaison office in those countries.
Okay.
Because even in Kenya, education is among its schedule of commitments. You get it? So actually, those who don't know schedule of commitments, the schedule of commitment means if Uganda schedule education as it's among its schedule of commitments, that implies a Kenyan will come and study here in Uganda at equal fees and tuition. You get it? Because even in school, where we were, Kenyans were paying the same fees as Ugandans. So even in Kenya, when a Ugandan goes to Kenya, he has to pay the same fees as a Kenyan pays. So Kenya, among its services, schedule of commitment in services, education is among. So going to Kenya and explore your market, your institution, if you have the capacity, you can go. You don't need a whole big office. You just need a small shared space, put your desk. Trust me, you'll have a few students who come from Kenya to join your institution. So for me, that was my simple advice to those looking at pulling Kenyan students or Tanzanians into Uganda. Thank you.
Brenda.
Yes,
Yes, Brenda, if I can
please.
come in briefly on that issue.
Yes,
You know,
George.
I've been in the forefront of marketing the higher education in Uganda for over 15 years. And we have been doing it as National
Yes,
Council.
sir.
But now that we would want to partner with the Export Promotion Board, these are the areas which I see them having challenges. For instance, these institutions may want to exhibit in virgin areas like Southern Sudan, like Congo. What you people could do, you could partner with your institutions that side and then organize the space in which these people can come and exhibit and recruit students. Another thing which I've seen, I've been with the Uganda Christian University and other universities as far as in exhibitions in Tanzania, where we are even able to get quite a lot of students. We go there as partners with the East African regulatory bodies. But what I would want to see Uganda Export Promotion Board do, you could copy what India is doing. If you listen to the radio, India has established a website where all those who want to study in India apply free to all those institutions in India. So all these institutions will register in that website, and when the students go to this website, they will be able to, because this website will be accessed from elsewhere, and it is the duty of Export Promotion Board to promote, to advertise in the different virgin areas where we expect to get the students, as we have already known where our students come from. So they register on that website and they apply to the higher education institutions in Uganda, because right now most of the some of the institutions don't have their own web presence. But with the UPB, Uganda Export Promotion Board, you can support that website construction, and then all the institutions register there free, and then it can be it will be your role to advertise in the different destinations as a service from Uganda, and then these people can receive the students. Because now if they do it individually, like establishing a presence in Kenya, an office, it may not be very marketable. We as National Council can provide you with all accredited list of programs and accredited higher education institutions that can be hosted on your site. So when they apply, you just include them on the site. And I think that will work out quite well, in that we shall be accessing elsewhere in worldwide, instead of us saying we go and establish in Kenya, in Sudan. That will be very difficult for some of the institutions. So when students apply, they'll receive these foreign students from all over the world. I think that would be a better approach.
Okay, thank you so much, George, for that detail. We shall definitely look at that with you and see how we can be able to work along those lines, because it's a good idea, but there is a detail to it. So we will have to revisit it with you and see how we are able to handle it. I know that in the past we've handled some exhibitions where we had a number of universities that we took for some exhibitions in Kenya, I think. And I think that activity went quite well. But we haven't had a similar one, which is something that we need to put together now, depending on the environment that we are currently faced with. But there are many other services that we can offer. We currently also do lots of training in services where we are having our different exporters of services coming together by sector. Now today this was purely education, but we've had similar ones for ICTs. We've also had something to do with construction. So these are all initiatives that we are developing to see how we promote our export of services better. We've also come up with some handbook which gives the basics of anybody who would like to export services. And this is all in the ED's presentation. So the areas of interface and how we can engage a number, but we shall continue to see how we are able to go through each one of them one by one. Okay, we're still looking at the questions. Let me see, we have one more question that has come in. Quality and stable internet may seriously hinder the smooth running of online and virtual education, which I think is the key issue in exporting education. How
Hello.
would you? Yes, Daniel.
Actually, some questions also. For example, now internet. There is
Daniel,
another.
I
Hello.
will just do one question. Just hold on. Daniel, just hold on. Let me finish with this question. The question says, how would UPB be of help to address such a challenge? And this is Kembo from Muni University. Okay, this question is basically asking Export Promotion Board on how best we would be able to help universities online, especially with a kind of internet. Stella, are you online? Stella, are you online? Okay, I wanted Stella to share a bit about how we've been working with ICTs, because some of them are ready to support and help in terms of some of the challenges that some companies have with online, but also like George shared earlier, the aspect of NITA U, and how they have been of working with some universities on online. So that aspect can be further addressed depending on what the issue is. But we can work
Brenda?
with you. Yes, Stella.
You can ask us, talking to someone.
Sorry, okay. There's that question of how we can support universities who have challenges with their online learning. And I was asking you to share a bit about that and how they can be able to be supported through NITA U and the ICT ministry.
Okay, with the internet, unfortunately, if it is what had happened with government, we all do not have much we can do. But one of the things that entities can do is liaise with these IT entities. One, they have very good softwares developed for the online learning. Okay, and then two, they can partner with RENU, where students can have access to internet at their particular universities at no cost at all. That is pretty much what I would advise.
Okay, thank you very much, Stella. Thank you for that. So we will continue to look deeper into some of these questions after this, so that we get in touch with the universities that are raising them and see how better we can handle. There's one more question from Patrick. He says, I say Export Promotion Board is partnering. Sorry, I don't understand the purpose, but is partnering to give additional strategies to help market. Patrick, maybe you need to clarify exactly what you're asking. I don't seem to pick your question. Kindly clarify on what your question is. Okay. So I don't think we have any more questions. If Patrick clarifies, we will answer his question. But otherwise, I think we have gone through all the questions that were raised. And if anybody has a comment, they can put up their hand. Okay, I see a hand up. Yes, Patrick. Okay, I have unmuted you. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I wanted to say.
Yes, please.
Are you getting me now?
Yes, I can get you. Yes.
Yes, I was asking, am I right if ICE Export Promotion is partnering with us to give additional strategies to help institutions market their products? Because I came a little bit late and joined you when Pius was making presentation.
Oh, okay. Patrick, maybe you could introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm called Patrick Chebet. I work at Soroti University as Assistant Academic Registrar.
Okay.
Specifically in charge of examinations, teaching and learning.
Okay. To answer your question, yes, Uganda Export Promotion Board, one of our mandates is to support institutions like yours to market their products and services. So we would have no problem with partnering with you, because that's part of what our work is, to ensure that your services are properly marketed and we get you get buyers for your services. So you're very welcome to share with us your opportune time, so that we can see how better to work with you to promote your universities. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Patrick, you still have a question? No?
No, this is a new area.
Sorry. Sorry, Patrick, I didn't hear you.
Okay, I was saying,
Yes.
in this, because it is a new approach coming in now in this partnership,
Yes.
So what would be the contribution of universities
Mm.
in this partnership with export promotion?
When you say contribution, well,
are you getting me?
Yes, I've got your question.
Yeah.
In terms of universities, we are looking to interface with you closely, understand your product, so that we know what you do. So in different forums, we normally get inquiries about what services we can offer here. So we would be able then to work with you and market you. So this whole platform is to encourage that partnership for us to know you, because we've not been working with universities. This is one of our first key engagements, and we really appreciate National Council of Higher Education for all the support. George played a key role in bringing all of you together, and we really appreciate, because this is what's basically to raise awareness about what we do as Export Promotion Board, and how we can work with you and promote our education services. Yes, please.
And the final one is a request.
Yes.
Is it possible for you to share with us the recording so that those of us who entered a little bit late can go through the presentations from the beginning of the webinar up to now?
Yes, we shall share all the presentations and the recordings with you, so that you are able to get the full insight of what has been happening.
Okay, thank
So
you.
we will definitely share those.
Brenda, if I can add on something to what Patrick was requesting.
Yes.
Brenda, are we still online? Yes.
Yes, you are.
Now, I think what is key to the higher education institutions now, if we are really to access the international markets, we need to make sure that we have that systems that are working right. That is a learning management systems, in that you're able to recruit these students from wherever locations they are. And then we also need to make sure that all the programs you're advertising are accredited by National Council for Higher Education. And you make sure that all your programs are up to date, because most of these students will do a cross-reference. They will check from the National Council for Higher Education that these programs are either accredited for blended learning, that is online learning or face-to-face, or these students, or they are accredited for face-to-face, the traditional method of delivery. So you need to really make sure that your programs are up to date, and that's the key. And all of us should be working towards that from now on. I'm partly passionate about that. We are supporting the programs department to make sure that all higher education institutions have their programs up to date. And we have an integrated management system. That is, you don't need to bring your programs here physically. You submit your programs online, and we receive from this side, and we advise you on what to do. And all this, you access it from the National Council for Higher Education website. So I would encourage all the higher education institutions to use this platform, and to use this platform to submit your programs. And this may quicken up things for us as we go international. And again, maybe to encourage the Export Promotion Board to have these regular meetings so that we can develop a strong database of the technical officers whom we can work with in the universities to make sure that these programs are successful. Marketing a service is not an easy thing. Any small glitch, you lose it all. And I think we need to get it right from the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, George, for those passionate words. That is very true. Marketing a service, we have to be very careful and very smart, because we can, destroy our image if we do things the wrong way. And that's why this discussion is in partnership with the regulators who know the detail, because we don't want to export something that is not accredited. We don't want to export something that is not of quality. So that's why we have the regulators with us. And this partnership is to make sure that we are doing it right. Okay, I can see a hand. Hamza. Hamza, please go ahead and ask your question. Hamza, can you hear us?
Hello.
Hello, Hamza, please go ahead and ask your question.
Hello.
Hello, Hamza.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, good morning, madam.
How are you?
I'm sorry I got on board a bit late.
Okay.
Somehow I had a connectivity issues and my technical people were helping me out, but I have missed quite part of it.
Okay.
But I wanted to find out regarding something concerning students who may wish to transfer from a foreign institution, and then in the process maybe they would wish to transfer when they are halfway the journey the other side, and would wish to transfer maybe to institution this side. So I wanted to find out what help maybe we can get to because at that level they cannot provide maybe a complete certificate or transcript. So confirming records which are still halfway or quarter way may be somehow a challenge. So I wanted to find out whether in between the council can be of help to verify and confirm records or results of a student who is just in between and is transferring with those results. I wanted to share and find out here how they can be of help.
Okay, Hamza, your question.
Maybe I could come in.
Yes, George. Just Hamza, please.
Yes, Hamza, I think Hamza is from Kampala University, right? Now,
yes, please.
National Council has developed a credit transfer system that guides all institutions on how a student can move as long as they are transferring on the same program. You cannot be doing medicine and then you say you're going to transfer after 2 years you've done medicine, maybe you want to transfer to law. That does not work. We have the guidelines at National Council for Higher Education, and these are also, we shall also be putting these on our websites if there are some missing. Simply get in touch with National Council for Higher Education and we give you those documents that can help you transfer. But remember, a student cannot transfer in the 3rd year of their program. For instance, somebody goes to Kampala University and then they want to get a degree of Makerere. Then they go to Makerere and they say, oh, there's a policy for transfer. I want to transfer my credits and graduate from Makerere. It should be midway your program, and you should spend, the universities have their own policies. You also have to have your policies that I can only receive a student when they are going to spend 2 years with me or more than 3 years with me or something like that. That policy is in place. The credit transfer system, it's in place. We can always share with you people, those who may need it.
Yes, moderator, I have just sat down here. I think if you allow me, support George.
Okay.
It's a pertinent question being asked by Mr. Hamza, my friend, the AR of Kampala University. Yes, George is very right. There's a policy. Just to belabor, the credit accumulation and transfer policy cuts requires that there are a number of parameters. First and foremost, the university here should be recognized by NCHE or the institution. And also the sending institution should also be recognized, accredited, if it is in Nigeria, recognized by that higher education body. That's the principle number one. Number two, the program being factored in, a student coming from Nigeria, for example, ought to have been pursuing a program accredited by that body, and we need evidence of that. 3, a student should have studied and passed those number of courses which they wish to transfer. 3, transfer can only be accepted up to 60% of the total course units. So if you're pursuing a program of 36 course units, you work out that, I think, about 18, simply because what George is saying, there is the context of the characteristic of a training institution. I cannot spend 3 years, okay, 2, if I'm on a 3-year program, I can't spend 2 years, then 2 semesters remaining with only 1 semester. I come to Chambogo University, then I get a degree from Chambogo thinking there are a number of things which require the behavior. So every university will be required that you spend at least 40% time in the institution you wish to continue, among other things. But the policy is there, it's doable, we receive it on a daily basis, and NCHE should be involved in terms of the foreign bodies and local. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Pius. So Hamza, I hope your question has been answered. I will now go to Jacinta. Jacinta, I think you can now ask your question.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, my name is Jacinta from University of the Sacred Heart, Gulu. My concern is we have been for basically in-class sessions, and now that many universities and academic institutions are struggling to move online. I would like to ask George if he can really give some guidance on how university can still ensure the same quality as they were doing it in the in-class sessions. Thank you.
Okay, George, that is a question directly to you. If you can respond.
Thank you, Jacinta. What National Council has put in place for the online delivery of online learning, we have accredited some of the institutions. And when we come and accredit these platforms to deliver online learning, we strictly look at the security, the quality assurance, and all those. But some institutions have gone to the extent of accrediting modules for online exams. Basically, if you follow the guidelines which we have been able to put in place, we should be able to get these learners to progress from their different locations. And the learning modules we are looking at, we make sure that there's a lot of quality assurance in the system where there's security, the student is known, the login, you can monitor the students, you can assess the students online, summative assessments, you can give courseworks online, you can give group works online, and basically it's just changing the mode of delivery to online. And all these things we need to do, we used to do face-to-face, is being done online, but in a different way. Students are given passwords, and you can actually know which student has not attended. And these modules we are crediting, we make sure that it empowers the lecturers to evaluate the students and follow the students along those lines. Then there has to be a quality assurance module where the quality assurance officer of that institution also monitors the lecturers' conduct and the students' conduct during the sessions. So the systems you put in place can still ensure that we deliver quality. But on regards to examination, we are encouraging, if you're not able to get a software that can lock up the browsers for a student to do online exams, then you'll have to do exams on the campus, where the normal way, and actually most of the institutions were able to conduct exams for final year students on campus. I think that's all that you have provided for now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, George. I think we have basically exhausted the questions. George, there was a request that you share your video so that people see you. Someone wants to see you. I see Hamza saying Please, I cannot see you. And then I see Issa was saying, please share the screen. The presentations are over, Issa, so there's no screen to share. But some people wanted to see you, George. Okay, now I have a number of people.
I'm trying to put it online, yes.
Okay. I don't know if we can see you. Okay. As George tries to share his video so that we see who he is, I would like to mention here before we close. There are some people who didn't introduce yourselves. We shall go into that session so that we all know who we are. So please, if you can help me put up your hand so that I quickly go through for those who didn't introduce themselves. Then going forward, we have a number of trainings coming forward this week. Tomorrow we have one, and then we have a series of them next week and the following week on export readiness. So I'd like to ask all of you to participate. If we don't have your information already, we shall still pick it from George and be able to share links so that you see the other kind of trainings we are carrying out. I'm sure some of them will be very relevant to you. You're in different parts of Uganda. You may be doing exports in one way or the other, maybe not only services. You could be involved in production of agro-processing or manufacturing, or you could be involved in agriculture. So we are going to have a series of trainings and we would like to encourage you to participate. Secondly, Stella will be sharing an evaluation form. And because this is the way we are going to strengthen, we want to strengthen this relationship with universities and tertiary institutions, with the council as well. So we'd like to hear from you in terms of what you expect from us so that we are able to structure better whatever our discussions with you and our trainings are. So let me see the people who didn't introduce themselves. Okay, is Issa. Issa, please go ahead and introduce yourself. You can unmute yourself and then introduce yourself. Issa, you can hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Good morning, Brenda. I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello.
Hello, Issa.
Yeah, I am very sorry. My network is very bad. I have not been catching up the last bit of the presentation.
Okay.
Then too, the audios are very low. I can't hear you guys very well.
Sorry about that.
Hello.
Hello, Issa. We can hear you. We can hear you very well.
Yeah, the signal is breaking. I can't. Yeah, but I can't hear you guys.
Okay, you're from.
It's sort of a breaking.
Okay, you're from which university?
Arua, Nile Institute of Management Studies.
Okay.
I'm from an institution. It's called Nile Institute from Arua.
Thank you, Issa. Did you have a question? We shall share all the recordings and the presentations so that you are able to get the details that you may have missed.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Someone else who hasn't introduced themselves. Benita. Benita, you can unmute yourself and introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, I'm Benita Rumanzi. I'm at the Africa Population Institute.
Okay, thank you
I've
very
been
much.
following the discussions going on.
Thank you, Benita. Okay, there's somebody called Eva Aurora. Eva, you can unmute yourself and introduce yourself, please. Tell us that university you're from.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Eva Morora, in the Office of the Vice Chancellor. I'm the Executive Assistant at African Rural University in Kagadi. I've been following the conversation, although at some point it went on and off, but it was a good discussion.
Thank you very much, Eva. We're glad you are part of us. Okay, let me see who else. We haven't heard from Rose. Rose, you can unmute yourself and introduce yourself. Do we have Rose?
Yes, hello.
Hello, Rose.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rose.
My name is Kribakanya Rose Rwankore. I'm a Senior Public Relations Officer at Bishop Stewart University. I've been following up. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. It was so educative and very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you for being part of the discussion. Then we have Judith. Judith, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, hello.
Yes, Judith, please.
This is Judith Nanozi.
Yes, please.
A librarian at Uganda Matters University. It's such a good opportunity to having joined this presentation, and I'm looking forward to following up everything that has been discussed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, who else didn't introduce themselves? Mr. Magara, did you introduce yourself? Kindly unmute yourself and introduce yourself. Okay, I think he's not with us. Do we have Muhammad? Yes, please.
Brenda, I did introduce myself. I'm called Magara Siba, Academic Registrar, University of St. Joseph, Barara. Quite clear?
Okay. Yes, you're very clear. Thank you. We have somebody from Mr. Muhammad. Mr. Muhammad Mpeza Mihigo, are you with us? From KIU? Okay, KIU was our top service exporters of the year. Unfortunately, he's not here to introduce himself. Maybe when he gets on, he will. Okay, we can have somebody, we can only see Huawei. I don't know who that is. Someone who logged in as Huawei. Okay, doesn't seem to be on. Okay, Muhindo Desire. Unmute yourself, Desire. Hello. that somebody on Huawei? Desire, you're on. You can please introduce yourself. Hello, Desire.
I'm Mohindo Desire from African Royal University.
Sorry, you're too low. Just increase your.
I'm Mohindo Mile Desire from African Royal University.
Okay.
And I work in the Dean's office. I'm glad to be part of this discussion, and I hope what has been discussed, and we're also going to put it into actions, because there are some of the things that I have learned, and we are going to implement it at African Royal University.
Thank you very much, Desire. I will now ask Peace Balala. Peace Balala, unmute yourself. Do we have Peace Balala? Okay, we don't seem to have Peace. Professor Matthew. Professor Matthew, you can unmute yourself and introduce yourself. Okay, we don't seem to have Professor on the other side. We can't hear you.
Thank
and then,
you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes,
Names.
please.
I work with my university as a public relations officer. Yes, I want to thank you for inviting me to attend.
Sorry, Peace, your line has dropped. We can't hear you.
Discussion. What has been discussed? Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, Peace, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
And it has opened our eyes to lots of things, and we believe as universities really we need to.
Sorry, Peace, your line keeps dropping. Okay, Professor, you on? Professor Matthew? Professor, you can unmute and introduce yourself. Okay, we don't seem to have Professor. I think the last person we have oh, let me see. Well, I think I have everybody. I think everybody has introduced themselves. Okay, so I think with that, we should be able to conclude. Issa, do you have a question? I can see your hand is up. Issa, do you have a question?
Not really much. Not really much.
Okay.
But you guys talked about the collaborations and so on.
Yes, please.
But from the discussions, as I can hear, the focus is basically universities. And now for us as a tertiary institution, under the ODEL, we could only implement the open and distance learning, and then we couldn't go into the e-learning so much because of ICT capacity limitations.
Okay.
So what plans does
Sorry, Issa, this is not only about universities. That's why you're part of the whole discussion.
Yeah.
We will definitely address your issues depending on what they are. So don't feel excluded for everybody. It's for tertiary institutions as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay. The person who logged in as Huawei, are you there? Can you introduce yourself? Okay. I don't seem to be getting what they are saying. Okay, so I think we are done. We're done with introductions. And if there are no more questions, still I think you've shared the evaluation form. In case of any other issues, please Stella, share your email address and your contacts in the chat so that if people want to get in touch, they know whom to contact. So if that is it, Eva, do you have a question?
Yes, I was
Yes.
I followed the link to register.
Yes.
But however, they require for a TIN number. So you want the institution's TIN number because I think you can't go forward unless you have provided that. Is it mandatory to put in that?
Okay, I'll explain a little more about that link. Stella shared the link for registration for export readiness. Now, that link that she shared will take you to a set of questions which will guide us in terms of your preparedness to export. Okay? So that's why the details that we want are the details of the university, because we will basically be working directly with the university. But she will share an evaluation form, which will be specifically for today's webinar.
Okay,
Am I clear?
it's fine.
Yes. So the link is for the university, and we want to get that information so that we are able to assess your level of readiness to export. Then we can be able to work with you depending on where the challenges are.
My name is Josephine Nsongo from the Office of Executive Director.
Josephine, be a bit louder. Hello, Josephine.
Yes, please.
Yes, be a bit louder. We can't hear what you're saying.
I was just introducing myself as Josephine Nantongo from the Office of Executive Director, Uganda YMCA.
Okay.
And I want to thank the main discussant for all that is being shared. We've really got to know things that maybe we didn't know about in National Council for Education. Yeah, thank you so much for organizing this meeting.
Thank you so much, Josephine. We fully appreciate your participation. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think you'll allow me now to conclude and appreciate, first of all, the National Council of Higher Education. They have been very, very supportive in terms of putting this together and bringing you all together. Secondly, I'd like to really appreciate the participants for the time you have spared to come together and share your experiences and share your different challenges. Now, this is the kind of information we require as an institution, as Export Promotion Board, to be able then to support you in the different ways. So I would also specifically like to thank the panelists who took their time to make these presentations and fully, pack them with a lot of information. I think once you go through this presentation, it will be very good in terms of the different solutions that it will bring on board. So as Export Promotion Board, the journey to promote services is a big one, and we cannot do it on our own. We need to work with you. We need to be able to hear from you. We need to be able to understand your successes, where your challenges are, and to understand your products as well. Because marketing, we are speaking about the product or the service that we have to offer to our different clients. So if Export Promotion Board does not understand it, then we won't be able to market it well. So this opportunity is to create that awareness about our services as a board, and also be able to bring on board the efforts that National Council of Higher Education is trying to put across to make the sector better. So with that, George. Yes, George.
Yes, I was struggling to get connected back. I had to log off to get my video on.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Okay, now everybody can see George. That is George, who has been responding to your questions very articulately, but also he knows and he has put together all your contacts. So he's the one who did the invitations. So George, thanks a lot for your good work.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it. And we're going to definitely work on the MOU like Dr. Pius raised, and make sure that whatever it is that you're requesting, we are able to work together to make it happen.
That's good. That's good.
So with that, yes, with that, I would like us to now conclude this meeting, and I think we can now close and leave. So thank you again. Thank you very much. I can introduce myself. I'm Brenda Katarikawe Opus, and I'm the Senior Export Marketing Executive at Uganda Export Promotion Board. Have a blessed week. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.